Hello children, how are you all? So let's do English honeydew, and we are doing which unit? Unit 3. Macavity, the mystery cat, and this is the second part of this unit. You remember your character, the main character? Yes, the notorious cat. Now, in this session, I'll be teaching you the figures of speech of this poem. Now, you all know what figures of speech are. Figures of speech is the way a poet writes the poem. So, the adjectives, how imaginatively, how creatively the poet has written, that we will be analyzing it in detail. So, let's see the figures of speech of this poem. First, let us know what figures of speech is all about. A figure of speech is a phrase or a word that expresses the ordinary course of ideas in order to produce a greater effect. You know that poem is all creative. Now, how the poet puts a small thing creatively to give a greater effect, that's what figure of speech is all about. Figures of speech used in the poem Macavity, the Mystery Cat. How many are there? 6 figures of speech. Alliteration, repetition, imagery, personification, metaphor, and simile. So let's start with alliteration. The occurrence of the same consonant letter or sound at the beginning of words appearing close to each other is known as alliteration. Okay, same consonant sound, if it is repeated again and again, then we call it as alliteration. For example, where the wild man watched and waited. Now you can see here that verse sound is being repeated here. Words is repeated. It is used to create rhythm and bring attention to an idea. Okay, एक छोटी सी बात है उसको highlight करना है, then we call it as repetition. The words or phrases are repeated to emphasize its significance in the entire poem. For example, the art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Now, this particular line, the art of losing isn't hard to master, is being repeated again to give more significance. Now, we have imagery. Now, imagery is what? From the word itself, we can make out some imagination is there. Imagery is a name given to the elements in the poem that spark of the senses. It represents objects, actions and ideas in such a way that it appeals to our physical senses. Okay? ऐसा कुछ होता है जिससे हमें हमारे दिमाग में भी तुरंत that picture comes in our mind. Okay? Something we also imagine. Okay? You read some things and when you're reading, you feel as if you can imagine that. So, imagery gives a mental image of that thing. Wall symbolizes borders and city symbolizes country. So, we can imagine that. So, such things are imagery. Personification, you have done this before. In personification, inanimate, person-like qualities having non-living. Okay, non-living objects are having person-like qualities. Inanimate objects and abstract notions are spoken of as having life. Youth is nimble, age is lame. Metaphor, a comparison. Whenever you compare, that is metaphor. Between two things that aren't alike but do have something in common. Laughter is the best medicine. Then you have simile. Now, children, metaphor and simile both talks about comparison. Now, you might be wondering like how you can distinguish between both. In metaphor, there would be a comparison, but they won't be using any word like. But in simile, we will be having comparison plus this word like, L-I-K-E. A comparison is made between two things which have something in common using the words like or as. She floated in like a cloud. His temper was as explosive as a volcano. So let's begin. We have understood all 6 figures of speech used in this poem. So let's do stanza wise. First stanza, McCavity's mystery cat. He's called the hidden pearl. Now murmur, mm sound is being repeated. So this is alliteration. For he is the master criminal who can defy the law. Okay, we are talking about this cat having the qualities of a lawbreaker. Personification. He is the bafflement of Scotland Yard, the flying Scots' despair. Now all these things we are talking of a human being. So this is personification. For when they reach the scene of crime, McCavity is not there. Repetition. McCavity, there is no one like McCavity. This line has been repeated again and again, so that is repetition. He has broken every human law. He breaks the law of gravity. Again, human qualities, personification. His power of levitation, of flying, okay, immediately it comes to your mind, would make a fakir stare. Imagery. And when you reach the scene of crime, McCavity is not there. This line repeated again, so repetition. Then continuation of the second stanza. You may seek him in the basement, you may look up in the air. Personification. But I tell you once and once again, McCavity is not there. Again this line is repeated, repetition. Third stanza, McCavity's ginger cat is very tall and thin. That is alliteration. Why? Because here you can see T and T, T sound is being repeated. You would know him if you saw him, for his eyes are sunken in. So that is alliteration. Why? Which sound has been repeated here? Yes, her, H sound. His brow is deeply lined with thought, his head is highly domed. Alliteration again. Why? Because of her sound, H and H, here also H is there. Continuation of third stanza. His coat is dusty from neglect, his whiskers are uncombed. Now here you have alliteration also, as well as you have imagery. This picture comes to your mind. He sways his head from side to side with movements like a snake. Now like is used comparison, but this is simile because of this word like. And when you think he is half asleep, he is always wide awake. Now this is again alliteration, you can see H sound, her. McCavity, there is no one like McCavity, it is repeated, repetition. For he is a fiend in feline shape, a monster of depravity, alliteration as well as metaphor. You may meet him in a by street, you may see him in the square, imagery. But when a crime is discovered, then McCavity is not there. This is repetition. So, homework for today's session is you will be writing figures of speech definition in notebook. I know you have written some of it in the previous poem also, but I want you to write it again because it will help you in understanding more about it. Okay, so you will be first writing all the definition including figures of speech definition, and then the list of it, that definition also you will be writing, and then you will be writing the figures of speech of this poem. You will write line to line figures of speech. See to it that you write in capital letters. Okay, the first letter capital and then the, for example, personification. So write P capital. Okay, rest all if you write small, it's okay, but P, the first letter of each figure of speech, you write in capital letter. Please take care of your spellings. Okay, children? So bye.